Yeah, welcome guys. Welcome to the JavaScript course. In this class, we are going to continue from where we stop. So, what you are going to do for me, you are going to duplicate this, copy this, and duplicate this here, and paste it here. So here we are going to rename this to week class 2. So here in this case, I'm just going to remove this. I still have mine. So in this case, I'm just going to clear off all of this. Save them. Open with live server. All right. Now this is what we have. So we are going to look at loop. We want to look at loop because in our last class we did conditional statements, template literal, and other things as well. Alright, so in this class we are going to look at loop and arrays. We are going to look at loops and arrays, and if time permits us, we are going to look at function as well. Alright, so what is loop? Let me come here and copy what I have in my notes here. So let's comment this. So now what is loop? Loop or loops are used in JavaScript to perform repeated tasks based on a condition. It is used to repeat a block of code. Condition typically returns true or false. A loop will continue running until the defined condition returns what? False. So let's say, for example, you want to perform a repeated task. You want to perform a task that repeats itself based on the condition. Then you use what? Loop. Do you get it now? You use what? Loop. So I think loop is something that shouldn't be new to us. Even when we are playing music on our phone, a music player, there's always a icon that have loop. So maybe if you want to repeat the song over and over again, if you want to repeat all the songs and all that, so there's a part for that. So let's say, for example, in this case, let's say I want to count I want to console the log. I want to output on my console, output on my console. I want to output 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and what? 10. I want to output this number in my console. What am I going to do? But I don't want it to be like this. I want it to be in a vertical or whichever way. We can't be consoling the login 1, console the log 2, one after the other until it gets to 10. What say, for example, you want to console the log, or you want to output a number from 1 to 100. Are you going to be doing the console 100 times? No, that is why we have loop. So loop actually helps us to be able to perform repeated tasks based on the condition. Now, in this case now, the condition is we want the loop to output 1 to 10 for us as long as the condition is less than or equals to 10, or let's say is less than 11. So any number greater than 11 will not be what? Will not be part of this number. So it's going to what? Return false, and it's going to terminate the loop automatically. So now, there are different types of loop in JavaScript, and I'm going to be starting from the basic, the simple one, which is called the for loop, because we have a lot of loop. We have let me do it here. We have the for loop. We have the for loop. We have the while loop. We have the do while loop. We have the for off loop. We have the for in loop. You get? We have the for in loop, and we have other loops too as well. So the thing is, once you understand one, you'll be able to understand the rest of the loops. Do you get it now? So let us proceed. So we are going to be looking at for loop, for instance. We are going to be looking at for loop. We are going to look at for loop. We are going to look at for loop. So what is for loop? Or it's not really a definition actually. And how does for loop look like? For loop receives an initializer or a counter. For loop receives for loop receives an initializer or starter, the start value, then followed by what? Condition, and followed by increment or decrement. So do you get it now? So receives an initializer or start value, then a condition, and increment or what? Decrement. That is what it receives. So this is what it simply means here. Whenever, like, let's say for example, we are using this example now, output 1 to 10. We want to output 1 to 10, and we want to use loop to do that for us automatically. All we just have to do is to set up the machine. That means the loop, the functionality. So in this case, my initial value or my start value is going to be what? 1. Since I'm starting from 1 to 10, so my start value is going to be 1. Then my condition was going to be, I want this loop to keep running until it gets to 10. So once it's above 10, I don't want it to keep running again. So this increment or decrement value is going to be, I want, since my starter value is 1, so I want to keep increasing the starter value. I want to keep increasing it until it gets to 10. Then anything above 10 will not be part of this number. It's going to what? Cut out from the loop. That is what it simply means. So now in this case, this is what it, so I'm going to write for. So this for, in this parenthesis, that is where it's going to receive these 3 arguments: the start value, the condition, and the increment. So now this is how we do it in JavaScript, or I don't know any other programming language. So we'll say let I be equals to what? 1, because 1 is the starter value. So we are using let I, doesn't mean that it is, you have to use it. It is just a convention. They call it a naming convention in JavaScript. It is just a convention, because everything in the world of development has what? Convention. It has there are conventions, or their way that we do things. That is what it means by convention. There are conventions in the world of development, in the tech world. So there are conventions. So we are using one of those conventions now. So you can either use any variable name, because this I is a variable name. You can use anything, but we are just using this I to serve as what? Like, it's like index. We are using it based on convention. So it doesn't have to be like this. You can say let count be what? Okay, we can say let count be this. Let's also be this. So let us use count, for example. Let's count. So you can use count, but I'll go with I, for example. You can use count. You can use anything. So say let count be what? 1. So we are assigning 1 to what? Count. So this is the starter, or the start value, or the initializer. Then what? A semicolon. After a semicolon, the reason why we are using let, I'm going to show you now. So say let I be equals to 1. So the semicolon. Then the next one is going to be condition. We say we want I to be what? Less than what? 11. So you get it now. We want I, the value of I, to be less than 11. So when you say less than 11, we have to be what? It has to be from 10, then to the start value, which is what? 1. Then a semicolon. Then we want I to be what? Plus plus. Now remember this plus plus. The first time we started JavaScript class, I told you this. I think it's part of assignment operator, that if you want to increase the value by 1, you use what? Plus plus. Do you get it now? I hope you remember. So if you don't remember, go back to your first class. So this is it here. So we said let I be equals 1. So this is the start value, or the initializer. Then back to what? Condition. Back to what? Condition. Okay, move to the condition. Then we say we want I to be less than 11. Then we want I to be plus plus. That means increase. So now let me explain this one after that. Now the reason why we're using let is because we are using I multiple times. We are using I 3 times, because if we use const, for example, is going to give you error. Can you see? You are going to have error alongside. So let's just use what? Let, because it is convention. So now what it means is we are starting the value of I with 1, and we are saying that we want the value of I to be less than 11, and want I to increase by 1. So what this does for us is, once the loop mounts, or once the loop starts, it starts with an initial value of what? 1. Then it checks, is 1 less than 11? Of course 1 is less than 11, which is true. So it's going to what? Output 1. Then as it's going to increase the value by 2 because of this increment here. So it's going to increase the value by 2. So it's going to check, is 2 less than 11? No, it's not less than, is 2 less than 11? Yes, it is less than 11. So it's going to output it. So it's going to increase again by 3. It's going to increase by 1. So it's going to be 3. So it continues to 10. So it increased to 10. You say, okay, is 10 less than 11? Yes, 10 is less than 11. So console.log it. It's going to increase again to 11. Is 11 less than 11? No, 11 is not less than 11. So definitely this condition is what? False. So as a result of that, it's going to terminate what? The loop. It's going to terminate the loop. The reason why the loop keeps running is because of the condition. As long as the condition is true, the loop will keep running with different value. But the moment the condition is false, the loop will what? Terminate. So that is like a machine. So it does that on its own without our own help. We are only just to set up this functionality. So now in this case, now I'm going to console.log I, and you're going to see it now. Because now I is now having a different value aside from the starter value. So the starter value is 1. So as you keep looping, the value keeps increasing. So let us see what we have. Now can you see 1 to what? 10. 1 to 10. Very simple. So that is what I'm talking about here. So that is that. Now we are going to use this loop to perform some mathematical operations. But before then, we can also have this in ascending order. No, we can have this in descending order. Just like we will have it in ascending order, we can have it in descending order. So instead of having, so it's going to start from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we're going to have it in descending order like this. And enough for us to be able to do it like this. Let me just comment this one. I don't need this, so that we don't have that here. Or let me. So let's do the descending order. So I'm just going to say, okay, 4. So let I now. So the starter value of I will no longer be 1, because we are doing it in a descending order. So the starter value will be what? 10. So say equals to what? 10. Then we want I to be greater than what is 0. Do you get it now? We want I to be greater than what is 0. And we want I to be minus minus. Now this is what it means here. The loop starts with an initial value of 10. Then it checks, is 10 greater than 0? Yes, 10 is greater than 0. Console.log it. Then it reduces the value to 9. Is 9 greater than 0? Yes. It reduces value to 8. Is 8 greater than 0? Continuously to 3. Is 3 greater than 0? Yes. Is 2 greater than 0? Yes. So log it out. Is 1 greater than 0? Yes. So it's going to reduce the value again. Is 0 greater than 0? No. So since 0 is not greater than 0, it's going to come out of the loop. So until it gets to false, the loop will keep running. So now I'm going to say console.log I. Then let's see. Can you see 10 to 1? So, and you have to be very careful so that you don't have infinite loop. Because when you have infinite loop, meaning that your loop will keep running and running on your browser, and it might stop your browser for a while. Then you have to turn off your laptop and turn it on again. So you have to be careful with the conditions so that you're not going to have infinite loop. The conditions, you have to be careful with the conditions. You have to be careful with what? The conditions. So you have to look it and study it very, very well. It's very, very important. Because in this case of descending order, we are saying we want it to start from 10 to 1. So we are saying let the starter value be what is 0. And we want the condition to be, the starter value to be 10. I want I to be greater than 0. And we want it to be what? Keep reducing. Because if you do plus plus here, for example, there's no way you are ever going to get to the condition. This way we are going to have infinite loop. Because if you do plus plus here, that means this value will keep increasing. 11, 12, 13. And as it keep increasing, it checks for the condition. Is it greater than 0? Yes. So it will keep going on and on until it gets to infinite loop, and it might stop your browser for a while. And it might stop your browser might stop working. So you just have to turn off your laptop and turn it on. So you have to be careful with the condition and the increment and the decrement value. It's very important, because in this case now, there's no how this is going to return false, because we are increasing the value, we are not decreasing the value. And the starter value is 10, and we are saying we want to keep increasing it. There's no way we will ever get to a value. There's no way this condition will always evaluate it true forever. So we have to reduce it, minus. So we want to keep reducing the value, so that once it gets to 0, it will terminate the loop. Do you get it now? So you have to be very careful with the condition and the increment and decrement. It is very, very important. So that is that. So let's see if we can do a mathematical operation with this. So now in this case now, I only want even numbers. So let me just copy this and paste it here. So let me first of all console.log even numbers, or let's say output even numbers. So now how do we do it? Let me open this again. how do we output even numbers? No, even numbers are numbers that when you divide them by 2, it will give you no remainder. Did you get it now? And even numbers from 1 to 10 are 2, 4, 6, 8, and what? 10. So how are we going to do this mathematical operation now? So this is what we are going to do. We are going to say, we are going to do if-else statement in this case. So you can see how we are bringing if-else statement. So whatever you have learned will be needed. Do you get it now? When you want to build a particular logic, do you get it now? Or you want to do a particular mathematical operation, 1 or 2 or 3 of the things that you have learned will be needed for you to be able to arrive at that result. So now in this case, I'll say if I modulus 2 is equals to what? Is 0. Do you get it now? If I modulus 2 is equals to 0, what it's trying to say is, if you divide 2 by the value of I and it is equals to 0, you know, even numbers, when you divide it by 2, it will give you a 0 as a remainder. So which simply means nothing. So if the value of I modulus 2 is equals to 0, so we want to be able to get those values. So, and you know that the value of I is 1 to 10. The value of I is 1 to 10. So we want to filter through those values and say we only want to console the log the value that is even, meaning that when you divide it by 2, it will give you what is 0. So the reason why we are using this modulus is because modulus gives you the remainder value when you divide a number by another number. That's why we are using modulus. So say if I modulus 2 is equal to 0, then console the log that value. So console the log what? I. And if you remember in our last class or in last 2 classes, I told you that if can have, it's not all if statement that should have else statement. Because else is an alternative for if. In the event that the condition is false, then it will come to else. But like I said, it is not every if statement that should have else. Because in this case, I don't want else. I just want to get only the numbers that passes this condition. So I only want only the numbers that passes for this condition. And let us see it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So can you see it now? And you also be wondering, why didn't I put it in a curly bracket? I should have put this in a curly bracket, something like this. Come in. I should have put this in a curly bracket, like this. Can you see? It will still work. It will still give us the same thing. So the reason why I didn't put it in a curly bracket is because the only thing that we are doing is just to console the log I. That's in one line of code. Since we are not using multiple lines of code, then there's no need, since we are not having a multiple line of code, it's just one line of code, then there's no need for the block. There's no need for what? The block. So we save. It will still work. Did you get it now? So this, we only want to get the number of the I that passes this condition. And this is what we have here. Simple. We can do the same thing too for odd numbers too. We can do the same thing too for odd number. And it's very simple. For odd number. And we are just going to invert this and say we only want we only want 2 modulus, we only want I modulus 2 that is not equals to 0. So what do you think I'm going to do here? I. So this is now, what is this? That is not equals to 0 is saved. So it means that we want the number, we want only numbers of the i's. We only want only numbers of the I that is not equals to 0. Meaning that once you divide it by 2, the remainder is not equals to 0. So that is what we want. Can you see? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So we just have to invert it. So it's very simple. Very, very, very simple. Now this will now lead me to what we call the break and the continue statement or function. The break and the continue statement is this the break and the continue function or statement here. Let me use statement in loop. So break and continue statement in loop. What does it mean? Break and continue statement in loop. So break simply means that whenever a condition is met, you want to break out of the loop. Let's say, for example, I want numbers from 1 to 5. Let me just console this. Let's say I want numbers from 6 to 10. Yes, I want numbers from 6 to 10, or I want numbers from, okay, let's say for example, I want, this is what I want for break. For break, I want okay, let me first of all do it, then I will explain it. Let me do it, then I will explain. When I say if I is equals to 5, break out of the loop, then console the log I. So let's see what we have. Alright, good. So let me call this console the log. Let me do so I can have demarcations. So let me say break statement. Break statement. Let me do the calculator. Break statement. Save. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is what it means here. Now this break meaning that let's say for example, I want to console the log 1 to 4, and for me to be able to console the log 1 to 4 without consoling the logging the rest of the numbers, it is simple. I just say, if the moment you see that I is equals to 5, break, meaning that as you keep looping, you loop 1, 2, 3, 4. The moment it gets to 5, break it, meaning that don't loop again. Don't loop again, meaning that once I is equals to 5, break out of the loop. Don't loop again. So it means 5 will not even be part of the number that will be consoled. It is going to be from 1 to 4. And that is what we have here. 1 to 4. That is how break works. That once a condition is met, then the rest of the code will not be what? Will not be looped. It will not be looped at all. So that is how what do you call it? That is how break works. Then for continue means that continue. Let me show you how continue works. Let me show you in practical so that you will see it. Continue. Let me paste this here. So for continue, I'll just come and say continue. Now look at what we have. Continue. Let's see. Can you see? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no 5. Can you see this now? So this is what it means here, that the moment you get to 5, continue, meaning that don't console the log continue. 5 should not be part of the numbers that I want you to console. So remove what? 5. Do you get now? Remove what? 5. But I don't want you to break out of the loop the moment you get to 5. But I want you to what? Remove 5, then continue the rest of what? Continue the loop and get the rest of the numbers. But break is an opposite. The moment it gets to 5, it terminates the loop and it doesn't log out 5. It only log out numbers that are less than 5. So do you get it now? It's as simple as that. That is different between break and continue. So break simply means stop. Continue means skip. That's what it means. Break means what? It means stop. Continue means skip. That's what it means. Skip. That's the meaning of continue. So do you get it now? It's very, 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 very simple. So I can say, okay, I want I to be greater or equals to 5, and I less than or equals to 8. Let's save this. So let's see what we are going to get. Can you see? So it means that I don't want to get 5, 6, 7, and 8. I don't want to get 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the moment I get to 5, 6, 7, and 8, I want to come out of the loop. I want to skip it, then get the rest. Can you see? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 is not there, 6 is not there, 7 is not there, 8 is not there. Then we have 9 and what? 10. That is the power of what? This statement. Break and continue, everything here. So all these ones that we did here is not something that is new to us. We've done it in our previous class. Okay, alright, so let's proceed. Let me just let me comment this loop now, and let's just look at array. What exactly is array? What exactly is array? So hold on. Let me copy this. So the next on our list is what? Array. And we are going to do some few things, and we end the class. Alright, so what is array? Array is a single variable that is used to store elements of different data type. Please, I want you to pay attention. Array is a single variable that is used to store elements of different data type. You know, now we have moved from primitive data type to non-primitive data type. In primitive data type, we addressed number, boolean, string, undefined, null, big int, symbol, and which other one. So all of these, they fall under the category of what? Primitive data type, meaning that predefined data type that is given to us by what? JavaScript. Then the non-primitive data type are derived from primitive data type. Now, for primitive data type, you cannot store more than one value in a variable for primitive data type. But in the case whereby I want to work with different value, I want to save that value in one variable, then we are going to move toward non-primitive data type, because non-primitive data type such as array and object actually help us to be able to achieve that. Because let's say, for example, I want to store multiple names inside one array. I can't do that with primitive data type. Let's say I want to store Tope. I want to store, watch now. Let's say I want to store different ages in a variable. I want to store, let's say 18. I want to store 23. I want to store 14. I want to store 16. I want to store 32. I want to store 43. I want to store all of these numbers, these ages, this number in a variable. I cannot do that with primitive data type. I have to be doing my age 1 equals to 18, age 2 equals to 23, age 3 equals to 14, age 6 equals age 4 equals to 16, age 5 equals to 32, age 6 equals to 43. You can see how stressful it is. So we are creating 6 variables so that we can be able to assign each of these values to these 6 variables. That is for primitive data type. But for non-primitive data types such as array and object, it affords us the opportunity to be able to store different values of any data type to a single variable. So in this case, you can store any data type. You can store a value of a number data type, a value of a string data type, a value of a Boolean data type. No, you can store anything inside of a single variable, and that is what we want to look at now. So let's say in this case now, I want to store all of this number. I'll say const age array. So this is the variable. No, I told you variable has to be descriptive. You can give it anything that you, or I can say age collection. Age collection, I think that would be better. Age collection. So now I want to save all of these ages now inside of this variable. That is the meaning of array. Array is a single variable that is used to store elements of different data type. So I'll come here now, do array. So this is how array works. It's a square bracket. A square bracket. Then I can save all of these ages there. I can say 18, 23, 14, 16, 32, and what? 43. Very simple. You see it? Very, very simple. And it will not give me any error. So now, the next thing I also want to let you know is that JavaScript arrays are 0 indexed. JavaScript arrays are 0 what? Index. What exactly does this statement or sentence mean? Now, the elements or the values that we store inside of this array, the reason why it is array, it is because it's inside of what? This square bracket. So all of these values here all belongs to what? The number data type. Like I said, you can store values of different data types here, but in this case we are just using number data type. So we are storing these values. So all of these values here, they are called elements of the array or members of the array. Please take note. They are called elements of the array or members of what? The array. And these elements or members of this array, their position is what? Unique. Each of these members or elements, their position is unique. The position of the first element is 0. So position can also be called index as concerning array or with respect to what? Array. Positioning can also be called what? Position can also be called index. So the first element, the index or the position of the first element is called what? Is 0. Not is called, is 0. So the index of this first element, which is 18, is what? Is 0. So index is talking about the position of the element in the array. So this is what? Is 0. Then followed by what? This 23, which is what? 1. 14 is what? 3. 4 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you see it now? Though the total number of the elements in this array is what? 6, but their positions is different, meaning that their position, the position of JavaScript array is what? 0 base. So meaning that the first position or the first index of this element is what? Is 0, followed by this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So please take note of that. It's very important. I'm taking my time to be able to explain this so that you will not forget. You will not have any misunderstanding whatsoever. So now the second one is, the third statement now is, what if you want to get any elements in the array? Maybe you want to get one element in the array. You want to console or log one element in the array. It is simple. To do that, array is used when we have a list of items and can be accessed using their index number. So to access any elements or members of this array, we can only access them by their index number. Let's say, for example, we want to get 32, the element of 32 in this array. And the only way we can get 32 is to get the index number of 32. And the index number of 32 is what? Let's start from this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the index number of 32 is what? 4. So you get it. So do you get it now? That is what it simply means. So it's just like saying we have 10 people in a seat and they all have a tag. So let's say the first one is 101, 102, 1 so like that. And if you want to get the person that is sitting in if you want to get the person that is, maybe if you want to get the person that is sitting in a particular position, you just have to get what? The tag number. That's what it means in array. Do you get it now? So now let me show you how to get that value now, or let me show you how to access elements of an array using their index number. So first of all of these, they are assigned inside of what? A variable called age collection. So you need what? You need to get the age collection, the variable, because everything is inside of what? The variable. They are stored in the variable age collection. Then now, if you want to now access any value, if you want to access any element in the variable, this is how to do it. After you've gotten the variable, if you want to access any element in the array, after you have the variable, then you have the curly bracket. So this curly bracket represents array. So meaning that you want to get a particular element in the array. So let us get the index. So let's start with 0. So if we save this now and we'll come here. So we get the first element, 18. So we are saying we are getting the first element by its index number. So let's increase this. Let's duplicate this multiple times. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's save this. Look at what we have. 18, blah 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 blah. We have all of this here. You get it now. So that is that. That is that about accessing elements by their index what? Number. So the next thing I also want to show you, the next thing I want to show you is how to get the last element in the array. How to get the last element in the array? Very simple. Well, first of all, how to know the length of the array, or how to get the length of an array, meaning how to get the length of an array, meaning the total number of the elements in an array. That's what it means, the length. So how to get the length of an array, meaning the total number of the elements in an array. Very simple. So we want to get the total number. So the total number of the elements in this array is what? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6. Please mind you that the length of an array is different from the index number of the elements of the array. and I told you that JavaScript array are 0 indexed, meaning that the first element, the index of the first element of an array is what is 0, not 1. So if we want to get the total number of the elements in the array, we don't get it by their index. We get it by counting the numbers, we're counting the elements in the array. So to do that, we'll say console.log. Then we get the age collection, because everything is stored inside of what? This variable age collection. Now say age collection dot, because now this length is a method in what? JavaScript. This length is a method in JavaScript. So what are methods? Methods are actions that we perform on a data type, because every data type has its own method. That means has certain actions that we perform on it. So in the case of array as a data type, it has a method that will perform on it. So we don't just only store items into an array and access those items by their index number. That is not the only thing that we do in array. We also do certain things in array. We also perform several and multiple functions in array, several and multiple actions in array. So all of those actions are already coded, which are called method that we can use on them. So in the case of knowing the length of the array, there is a method called length for that. In the case where you want to add elements to the array, there's a method for that. In the case where you want to remove elements from the array, there's a method for that. So there are a lot of methods. In the case whereby you want to find the index of an array, there's a method for that. You want to do a lot of things, there's a method for that. In the case whereby you want to know whether a particular element, whether an array includes a particular element, there's a method for that. So look at all the methods that we have. Can you see? A lot of methods. So that's that. And in the case whereby you want to cut a particular part of the array, there's a method for that that is called slide. So you see that there are multiple things that we can do on array or any data type other than just storing items or elements on the array and accessing the elements by their index number. So there are more to that. So let us look at the length. So there's a method called length. So you attach method to an array using what? Dot. So can you see? Age collection dot what? Length. This age collection is just a variable that is used that this array is stored on. So the reason why we are applying length to this variable is because this variable is holding this array. So it's holding this array. So let us save it now. Let us see the number of. So I'm just going to comment this one here. I don't really need it anymore. I'm going to comment this. I'm going to see, okay, console.log age collection length. So can you see 6 is telling us how many elements that are in the array? It's telling us 6. You get it now. So now in this case now, I want to show you how to get the last element of the array. How do you get the last element of the array? Let us analyze this. You know that the length of the array is what? 6. But the index of the last element of the array is what? 5. Check. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is the index of the last element of the array. But the length of the array itself is what? 6. So do you understand it now? It means that for us to be able to get the index, for us to be able to get the last element of the array, we just multiply the length, we subtract the length of the array minus 1 to get the last element of the array. Because for us to be able to get the last element of the array, we have to get the index number of the last element of the array. And the index number of the last element of the array is one. It is one. It is 1 minus the length of the array. Do you get it now? So 1 minus the length of the array will give you the last element of the array. So it doesn't just apply to this array, all arrays. So in case you have multiple elements in an array that you cannot really figure out where the last element is, you only just to subtract 1 from the total length of the array. Then you'll be able to get the index number of the last element. So with that index number, you can be able to get the last element of the array. So to do that, you can just say console.log age collection, then curly bracket. So we want to get the last index. So to get the last index, we are going to do age collection. Now, inside of the curly bracket, age collection dot length. That will give you the total number of the elements in the array. Now, for you to get the last index, you have to do what? Minus 1. Then if you save, it's going to give you the last index of the array. And let us see it here, 43. Can you see? Very simple. Very, very simple. So aside from that, let us look at other methods that we can use on array. Let us look at, for example, let's say we want to add an element. We want to add additional element to the start of an array, or we want to add an element to the end of an array. There's a method for that, and it is called on shift and push. So let's do something like to add elements into an array. So we have on shift. We have on shift method. So this on shift method helps us to be able to add elements into an array from the beginning. So this is it here. First of all, let me console.log the age collection so I can see the array. Can you see the array? You see this number here is telling us the total length of the array. So that's that. So now let's look at the on shift. We say age collection dot on shift. Now this on shift, look at what it's telling us. Elements to insert at the start of an array. So insert new elements at the start of an array and returns the new length of the array. Do you get it now? So now in this case, I can add more than 1 element to the array. Are you with me? I can add 55. I can add more than 1 actually. I can add 55. I can add 65. I can add 78. Do you get it now? If I add it now, so for me to be able to see what has been added to the original array, the age collection, all I just have to do is to console.log what the age collection. Then I will see the changes. Now can you see the changes? I added 55, 65, 78. Can you see what we have here now? It has been added to this. Very simple. Then if I want to add to the end of an array, let's say push. So we use push. So this is what it means. Age collection dot push. What am I pushing? I am pushing numbers. I can push more than 1 value. It doesn't have to be 1 value. So let me push 10, 90, and 67. So if I push that, let us see the changes. So console.log age collection. So let us see the changes. Can you see? This is the changes from 43, let's see, 10, 90, 67. Can you see the changes? So now the length of the array now is now what? 12. So that's that. So let us look at to remove elements from an array. So in this case, we are just going to look at two methods that we can use to remove elements from an array, from the start and from the end. So let us look at shift. That's the opposite of on shift. So say age collection dot shift. So now this shift here, since you are removing elements from an array, you don't pass elements into the shift method. So can you see? Removes the first element from an array and it returns it. If the array is empty, undefined is returned and the array is not modified. So what it simply means is this. Now, in the case of unshift, we are adding numbers to it. So we have to pass in the numbers that we want to add to the array inside of the parentheses of what this unshift. Same thing too for push. But when it comes to shift, shift simply means that you want to remove an element from an array. You want to remove the first element from an array. So to do that, you are not passing any value here. It doesn't receive any value. Are you with me? It doesn't receive any value. It's just an empty parenthesis. And what it does is to remove the first element in an array. So if I console.log this now, if I console.log age collection, let us see, we are going to have changes now. Now we have 11. Can you see 55 has been removed? Now we are back to 65. So I can remove as many as I want. If I want to remove as many that I want, I can just duplicate this. Can you see? I can duplicate this 3 times, or I can duplicate this 2 times, then to remove 2 elements for me. So this is it has removed 2. So let me zoom this. It's too big. So now let's move on to the next one, which is what? Pop. So pop also removes removes the last element of an array. It removes the last element of an array. So let me just come here, instead of typing it to save me stress. So I'll just come here and do pop. So pop removes the last element of an array. So let us see the changes. Let us see what has happened. Let's save. So let's see. Can you see? 67 has been removed. Now we are back to 90. So if we do this one more time, it removed that 90 and we have 70. We have 10 now. Can you see? So you can see that the length is reducing. Look at the initial length is what? 6. We added 3 numbers at the start. It's 9. The length became 9. We added 3 numbers at the end. The length became 12. We removed 2 numbers from the start. The length became 10. We removed 2 numbers from the last. The length became 8. So can you see? That is that. There are other methods, so there are lots of methods. So we are going to look at that in our next class. So because in the case whereby you don't just want to add elements to the start or to the end of the array, what if you want to add it in any position of the array? There's a method for that. What if you want to remove element not from the you don't want to remove the first or the last element? You want to remove an element anywhere in the array based on its index. There's a method for that. What if there's a case whereby you can remove and add at the same time? You can remove an element and add at the same time. There's a method for that. So we are going to look at all of those methods in our next class, and after that, then we will now look at, once we finish that, we'll look at the function, and if time permits, if we have enough time, we'll look at object. Then our next class, then we'll look at DOM. Then we'll start working with our user interface. So until then, do have a lovely day. Please, I urge you to go over all the classes that we've had on JavaScript from the beginning. So watch it over and over again, because you are going to be needing it. None of it is actually a waste. None of this is actually a waste of time. So as you see, as we go deeper and deeper into JavaScript, you will notice that all of our previous topics are like a building block. So we are building on it to be able to create stronger logics and to be able to achieve what we desire. So do you get it now? So please go over it and watch the video over and over again. So until then, do have a lovely day.